Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch is an immigration attorney. She's also the CEO of Lincoln-Goldfinch Law. Kate, it seems like this has more politics behind it than policy. How much does this vary from the president's first executive order on birthright citizenship that the Supreme Court actually struck down?
Well, it is more narrow, but it is an attempt of a sore loser to go back to restricting birthright citizenship. And there are a few things in the executive orders that are concerning to me, particularly the restriction of birthright citizenship to the children of what's called alien enemies, which is not defined in the executive order. And it could be the child of anyone who belongs to what the government has deemed a terrorist group, which has been broadly applied by the Trump administration. And so it's very feasible that children of immigrants, maybe immigrants from Venezuela or other countries, just by virtue of being from that country, are deemed alien enemies, and therefore their children are denied U.S. citizenship. And that could lead to things not only like the denial of a passport, but if you think about a baby that's born at a hospital, maybe it's born premature, it needs services in the NICU, needs Medicaid services, but if without U.S. citizenship, won't have access to emergency medical care. So this could ultimately be a life and death situation to maybe a small group of people, but nonetheless, it would matter deeply to them. And so I do hope that we see litigation because the courts have spoken, and this is a big step beyond presidential power once again.
The last executive order did make it to the Supreme Court. Do you see this case making it that far?
Probably. I think that the federal courts, as they did on the earlier order, would find that this is an overreach, and presumably the Trump administration would appeal this all the way up. So I think we can expect litigation on this, on both of these executive orders. And with the birth tourism, again, this is something that could be applied broadly. This is the second order that says when the government deems that a mother has come here just for the purpose of giving birth, that they could deny citizenship to her child. And the way that the government will apply this to people could be very broad. It could lack evidence. And it, again, could create big problems for babies who need medical care or documents or ability to travel. These are real life consequences. And hopefully we see litigation and a block to these policies before those consequences occur in real life.
Hey, Kate, this sounds interesting on paper as an executive order, but how do you put it into, I guess, real life? Are we then going to be policing the borders for women who show up seeking to come here because they're are pregnant, not to come here because they're pregnant, but come here who are pregnant?
I mean, one of the reasons that this is all such a farce and so absurd is that we don't have droves of women who are pregnant coming here to give birth. That is just not the reality. In fact, women have for many years been denied entry at the border. They get denied visas or they're not allowed in if they are visibly pregnant. So it just isn't a thing that occurs that very pregnant women come to the United States just to give birth and to leave. And most tourist visas are only 6 months long. So it's just not, this is the Trump administration attempting to convince us all that birth tourism is a thing, but it actually isn't even a thing. And again, the babies who get swept up in this are the ones who will suffer, innocent children who are going to potentially suffer medically as well.
You know, it's interesting you bring this up because we crunched the numbers when the president unveiled his executive order. Birth tourism there is such a thing, amounts to fewer than 30,000 births out of 3.61 million births in this country a year. Are we talking about a statistical drop in the bucket? And if so, does the baby have rights?
Precisely. We are talking about a drop in the bucket. This is not a thing. This is not a problem that we need to solve, but it benefits the Trump administration to convince their base that there are all of these immigrants who are coming over just to deliver babies. In fact, Stephen Miller referred to baby mills. I don't even know what that is. This is not an actual problem to be solved. And again, the way that the Trump administration is going to apply this is very concerning to me. as an immigration lawyer who has had clients accused of being alien enemies or part of terrorist groups or committing fraud or having the intent to immigrate or have a child. These are things that real people get accused of on a day-to-day basis when the government doesn't have evidence of that, and that can be a very difficult thing to disprove. And we're not talking about just denying someone a work permit or denying someone a green card. We're talking about little infants just born who are being denied citizenship, which keeps them from getting just basic human rights in this country. And if we allow that to happen and then the litigation occurs and that goes all the way up to the Supreme Court, real lives will be impacted. So I think that this is something that I hope that we see litigation on before it impacts actual lives.
Final question before I let you go. Is there anything the administration can do while the courts sort this out? In other words, if I'm pregnant and about to give birth, should I worry about a trip to the U.S.?
Yes, pregnant women always worry about a trip to the U.S. This is always a reason that a woman could be denied entry. If she's visibly pregnant, then she could be denied at the border. She could be denied at the embassy. And so this is nothing new. And you know, pregnant women now more than ever should not be planning to travel when they're close to delivery, because this is obviously something that will lead to them being denied entry. And it can be a very difficult thing when you've traveled a long way, you finally get to the airport and you're being processed. You can be detained, you can be deported. It's very difficult and stressful for people, and we wouldn't want someone who's pregnant to go through that. But again, this has always been the case. This is not because of the executive order.